Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kat, and for today we are going to be doing just a fun little get ready with me. I will be using all kind of work-friendly shades and things like that, so it's going to be a pretty neutral look because I wanted to talk to you guys about where I have been for about the last month and a half-ish roughly because a lot of you guys were asking, and I know in the past you guys have also asked me, you know, what is it exactly that you do within the Air Force, and so I thought this would be a perfect time to just kind of talk about it while I do my makeup and get ready. And since I'll be getting ready for work, it needs to be neutral makeup, and so I can kind of share some of the expectations of what that kind of makeup looks like, how my hair has to be, things like that. So yeah, this is just going to be pretty much like an actual getting to know me kind of thing. I figure now that we have so many of you guys that are tuning in, why not talk about what my life is like in the Air Force? So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. I will also make sure to list down below in the description any of the products that I'm using so that in case I forget to mention it or whatever, you guys can still see what I am using. So real quick, just before we get started, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer that the views and opinions expressed in the video are all my own, and they do not represent the views and opinions and regulations of the United States Air Force, the Department of Defense, or the US government as a whole. So keep that in mind. So we're starting off with our primer, the Milk Hydro Grip Primer, which is one of my favorites. I love it. I have very, very dry skin, as well as having kind of this weird skin thing where if I am extra stressed, my skin will just start to peel, which is weird. And so I need about as hydrating of a primer as it gets, without it just being outright just layers upon layers of moisturizer. So that's kind of where I start off with. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit real quick, just a bit of background. I have been in the Air Force for almost 12 years now. So it's pretty exciting. 8 years left until I hit the 20 years, which is when I will be eligible to retire. That's crazy that I'm in the single digits on that one. But definitely has been very interesting. I've kind of bounced around to a bunch of different bases. I've been on the East Coast in Virginia, I've been to Germany, then out here in Arizona, I've been to Korea twice, so lots of jumping all over the place for my job, which is pretty cool. So I've really enjoyed that, and definitely the job that I am doing right now is by far the favorite job that I have ever had. I absolutely love it. I love teaching people, and the fact that I just get to teach the newer airmen that are coming in, that are getting promoted to supervisors, is just absolutely amazing. And so I have just been really, really loving it. I started this job in January, which is why in January I was also gone for like a little over a month while I was taking care of getting the training for this specific job. And so that has been super duper fun. And then I was gone for about the entire month of October, and then a little bit into November, because I was also taking care of doing my own training, which is that essentially as you get promoted within the Air Force, you will go to different leadership levels of school. And so the one that I teach is the Airman Leadership School, which is essentially your first tier. When you first make rank to E5, which is your first tier of NCOs, you will go through Airman Leadership School, which is kind of your first introduction into how to be a leader, how to manage things, those interpersonal kind of communications as far as navigating all of that. And so that is what I teach, and I absolutely love it. And then I ranked up to E6, so I was promoted. And so that is the next tier where you would go to the Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. And there are several locations throughout the country where you can go to that, but it's not at every base, and so I did have to go down to Texas for that. The nice thing with Airman Leadership School is the majority of bases have that, so you don't have to really go anywhere, you don't have to travel to go to the schooling, and so that's really, really nice that you could just kind of hang out at your own base. But I enjoyed going to Texas. I thought it was very, very fun. I had some really cool people that I got to meet. And so every weekend, the people that were in my class, we would hang out and do different things, which was super duper fun. So I really got to see San Antonio, which was neat because San Antonio is also where the Air Force sends everybody to go through basic training. And so it was a very interesting experience going there and not being a brand new airman getting yelled at. And so as I was driving up to the base and I saw all of the new trainees marching around, I definitely was having like little flashback panic attacks where I was just like, oh God, where am I allowed to go? Am I gonna get yelled at for anything? And so it was definitely very interesting for the first couple days where I was like, am I allowed to go here? Like, what am I even doing? And you're not allowed to talk to the new trainees, and they're always like waiting for the buses to come and get them, and like even in bad weather, and you're just like, you poor soul, as you're just walking back to the dormitories, and I'm not allowed to like talk to you or like give you a ride or anything, just nothing. So it was definitely very, very interesting having that kind of environment, but being at a completely different level while I was there. So that was a little bit of a comical thing for me. So part of why I'm using the Chantecaille foundation, which is this, it's really, really nice. It's very lightweight. It's the Future Skin Cushion. Mine's in the shade Vanilla. And the reason why I like using this one is that we have to use very, very natural looking makeup. And so I like using that one because it just kind of evens out everything on there without really looking heavy or cakey or anything like that. And so I very much like using that one. If I'm having a bad skin day, which I'm like borderline having a bad skin day, then I'll go in with a little bit more coverage, probably like the Fenty hydrating foundation. But I do have one crater that has just, I think it's on its way out, but it's been like chilling at the top of my forehead. So to conceal that, we're gonna go in with the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, but normally I try to go very, very lightweight, and realistically, day to day, the most that I will do for work is that I will throw on my brows and then maybe a little bit of mascara, and that's kind of it. I don't really do a whole lot beyond that. And we're just going in with our fingers because I left my sponge somewhere and I'm too lazy to go get it, so we're just gonna blend with our fingers. Which probably ends up working out equally as well as the sponge. But yeah, so I don't really wear a ton of makeup on the day-to-day. Usually if I'm going in with all of this that I'll be putting on today, it is for a special event. So we do have graduations for each of the classes that we push through. Classes usually last about 5.5-ish weeks, depending on if there's like holidays or anything in the middle of that. And so they'll graduate, and so I usually like to be looking a little bit nicer on those days, just to, you know, do that as something nice to support the airmen that are graduating. And so I'll throw on a full face for that. But the normal day-to-day, I value my sleep too much to be taking the time to put on a whole lot of makeup. But that's also part of why, like, even if I am going to be putting on makeup, I like to try and go with the lightweight stuff, just so that way I don't have to worry about it just being hugely cakey. And in the summertime, there's no chance of me throwing on makeup. It will just melt off of my skin. And so it's really just in the fall, winter, and then like a tiny bit of the spring where I will throw on makeup, but very, very minimal for work. You also have to make sure that for jewelry, so the piercings that I have in, you're only allowed to have a single stud in your lower lobe. They did, however, recently change the regulations to where you can have the clear spacers in there. So if you have additional piercings, you can wear the clear spacers where you can't really see it, which is really, really nice. And so that's kind of what I'll do with a few of my additional piercings, where I'm worried if they're in cartilage spots that they might close up otherwise. But that's really kind of it. So we're gonna move into bronzer real quick, which I am going to be using the LYS No Limits Matte Bronzer, which is just a really nice lightweight bronzer because I don't really try to go for a hugely contoured look for work. I just try and go with something that makes me look less like a ghost. So I'll do a little under the chin just because that's helping to blend out the foundation a little bit down into my neck so that in case I missed anything, it just helps to kind of blend it all out on there. Yeah, so for the 5.5 weeks that I am instructing airmen, it is all about like leadership skills, problem solving, critical thinking type of stuff to help set them up for success when they go back to their units, because once you are an NCO, then you begin to have airmen that you are going to be supervising. And in the military, at least within the Air Force, supervising is not just that you are making sure that your person is like taking care of their day-to-day tasks. It is being a form of mentor to them, making sure that they are set up for success in their careers. If they have particular goals, helping to put them on the right path to accomplish those goals. And pretty much your success as an NCO is based on how successful your airmen are. Like, their success is your success is how I view it. And so I tend to be less concerned about my own career once I am an NCO because I am more concerned about just making sure that my airmen are taken care of. And that is definitely not something that you will see everywhere. Everyone has a little bit of a different way of going about how they choose to supervise, but we are expected to be helping to make sure that our airmen's lives are in a good place. So if they're struggling financially, making sure that we know what kind of resources the Air Force has available to get them financial guidance, a budget, things like that. How to, you know, save up money, put things away for retirement, all of that kind of stuff. So really just making sure that the airmen, as they step into that supervisor role, are prepared for how to really just take care of their people, because it is a lot more extensive within the Air Force than it is on the civilian side. At least from when I worked in the civilian sector, supervisors were not that engaged. They were just more so focused around like making sure that you got your job done. But your personal life was kind of your own thing to figure out. Whereas in the Air Force, we really, we look at the whole airman concept. And so it's all about, you know, beyond the job, what else are you doing to develop yourself? What things are you doing to support your community with volunteer things? Whatever it ends up being, how are you helping your troops out? How are you supporting your units in your base? Things like that. So we really care about that whole bigger picture. And so a lot of what we teach is the different resources that are available to every single airman so that they know what to recommend if their airmen are needing anything, where they can go on base to get that support. So I'm kind of going in with the cream blush from Fenty. This is the Peach Face shade, and I really like using the cream blushes for when I'm going to work because they are much more lightweight and more natural looking, I feel like, and I could just have an easier time kind of blending it into my skin to where it just looks like I'm like a normal skin tone, I guess. Because I know with powder blushes I tend to go in a little bit hard, and so this way I am able to make it far more natural and neutral looking rather than going in with like a super crazy blush. So within the curriculum, I think one of the things that I am really liking is that the Air Force has been working really, really hard to kind of update the curriculum, not just in terms of like what is going on in the world, but also kind of cueing into how we can take better care of the airmen, because it used to be that when I went through Airman Leadership School, when I first became an E5, it was very much structured around how to do documentation for your airmen if they were being a problem, or if they were going to get recognition for something that they did, how to do the different paperwork things, how to counsel them. things like that, whereas nowadays the curriculum is far different, to where it is more focused around how can we take better care of our people, and with some of the potential home life situations and mental health issues that an airman might be struggling with, what can we do to help? And so I really like that the curriculum has changed to be far more focused around that kind of thing, rather than focusing around, you know, just the paperwork and administrative side, which is really nice, because essentially as an instructor now, it is significantly less of me getting up there and just almost preaching per se. Like it's not that type of instruction. I am more of a facilitator of conversation. And so the airmen are essentially teaching each other, based on their own personal experiences, how to navigate through different life situations so that they are more prepared. Because there are so many situations that you might come across as a supervisor in the Air Force where, if you have never dealt with that situation before, you wouldn't know how to handle it. And so by having the airmen talk to each other and talk through the different situations that they have already dealt with on their own, they are essentially preparing each other for anything that they might come across, which is just amazing. And they're also building that network of people that they can go to, where it's like, oh, I remember that this other airman in my class mentioned that they had dealt with this problem. I don't remember what they said, but I can reach out to that person and ask them, hey, how did you handle this situation? Because I have a similar thing that's going on now. And so they're able to create that networking with each other to kind of carry forward for the rest of their career, that they have people that they can turn to if they need help with a situation. They also get to know all of the different career fields within the Air Force, because the courses that we have, it's not limited to one career field. So you're not just dealing with the security forces members, or just the personnelists, or just the maintainers. You are having everybody from every job together in these classes, so they are really able to get to know everybody else and what everyone else within the Air Force does, which is amazing when it comes to truly understanding what everyone does. Because I've found that a lot of people tend to kind of struggle with that feeling of, do I really matter? You know, because there's obviously certain jobs within the Air Force that are far more mission centric, where, you know, you're dealing with truly being able to say, okay, this is where I'm making an impact because I'm fixing these aircraft that the pilots need to have fixed so that they can go up and fly, right? Or I am working as a security forces member, so I am manning the security for the base, I'm keeping everyone safe. So they're you know, or I am medical, and so I am doing this or that to help keep our airmen healthy so they can keep going to their jobs and taking care of the mission. And there are a lot of those other jobs out there, though, where people don't feel as valued because their impact is not as readily apparent to them. And so it's really great to give them the opportunity to come to this schooling and really see how they fit into that bigger picture, so that they feel like they matter. You know, because every job in the Air Force matters. Because if it didn't matter, it wouldn't exist as a job. Because the Air Force is very good at getting rid of positions that are empty space. And so they are very good at figuring out exactly where we need people and where we don't. And so the fact that people are in these jobs is because those jobs matter. And so being able to really show them how much they matter and how they are able to help each other out is just, it's so awesome to see those kinds of light bulb moments in your airmen when they're in class and they're just like, you know, I never really thought of it that way. I had no idea that I have such an impact. And so I would do this job for forever if I could, because it is one of the most rewarding jobs to just help improve the morale and the motivation of these airmen. Real quick to jump back to the makeup. So for the highlighter, I threw on the Jacqueline iced highlighter, and I'm not quite sure. I feel like I went a little heavy on the one side, but I think it's gonna be okay. It's gonna blend out a little bit better here, but the one side. This side is better with the highlighter. I don't know what I did on this side. But we're gonna go ahead and go into the eyeshadow, which is going to be super duper minimalist. So for that, I use usually the Dominique Cosmetics Transition Palette, because we can't wear like glitter or sparkly makeup. And so I will go with this because it is an all matte palette and it's all neutral shades for pretty much any skin tone. And so it's like the perfect palette for no matter who you are, you will find a perfect neutral shade in there to keep your look really nice and natural. And so I usually go in with the shade either Caramel or Natural, which is these two shades up top here that are very, very light. Usually I'll go in like with the natural shade for the first half and then just ever so slightly the caramel shade for the back half. And I do nothing underneath my eyes. You will see quite a few ladies that like to do an eyeliner, like a winged line, and that is authorized as long as it is not too crazy. And so you'll definitely see that for like special occasions and things where a lot of the female airmen will wear like a nice wing on there, which is super cute. But we know I suck at wings, and so I can't do that because it will not look natural and pretty. It will look crazy, and so I can't do that. But you'll definitely see that. I just tend to kind of stick with just ever so slightly smoking it out with a little bit darker of a tone, so you can see where this is just ever so slightly a little bit deeper, and so it just gives it a little bit of depth at the corner of the eye. But that's really as far as I'll go on there with that, because I like to keep it very, very natural looking, because I also have to make sure that as an instructor I am representing the Air Force. And so I need to make sure that when I am in uniform that I am very much abiding by all of the regulations, and that my uniform, my dress and appearance is pristine, so that that way I am not negatively representing anything. Because we are kind of at the forefront, especially for graduations. We're the ones that are running the graduations. And so you have a lot of higher level leadership that is present for that. And so it's just a really good idea just to make sure that you are very much put together. And I am not always known for being the most put together because my hair is a little crazy, so if I don't use a lot of product on it, it's gonna go all over the place. And so I really kind of have to make sure that I am doing what I can to keep it all putting together very, very nicely, and making sure that I am properly dressed. Same thing with customs and courtesies. You have to make sure that you are appropriately addressing individuals, doing like proper greetings, things like that. Because again, as instructors, we are expected to be the example. And so we have to make sure that we are really properly following all of the regulations, so that that way we can set that really good example for the airmen, so that as they are stepping into those supervisory roles, they'll be able to be just as good of representatives to their airmen. Because a big thing of what we kind of talk about in class is how to lead by example. And so if you are not following the regulations yourself, how would you expect your airmen to follow the regulations, because you are not leading by example? And so that's a really big thing that we like to talk about, is just making sure that people understand you are now in a position where you are able to influence people. And so you have to make sure that you are aware of how you are influencing them, for good or for bad. And so as instructors, we want to make sure that we are influencing for good, that we are making sure the airmen understand the proper standards, how to set themselves up for success, so that that way they're in turn also setting their airmen up for success. So it's just one of those big, huge trains of we do good, then the new supervisors do good, then their airmen do good, and it's just this continuing effect of positive influence on there. And so that's a big thing that we like to talk about, is just making sure that you are aware of how you are portraying yourself throughout the day, so that that way you're giving that positive vibe to everybody. Because it's also the same thing, you know, if you're looking at wanting to change a negative culture, if there's a bad culture that's toxic within your work center, you know, look at how people are acting within that culture. You know, are they going along with the bad behavior? Are they doing something to counter the bad behavior? Because people oftentimes don't want to create waves. They'll just go along to get along out of like self-preservation. And so you want to make sure that you are at least even silently setting that positive example just by how you look, how you are portraying yourself, because that doesn't even require any words. You are just automatically setting a more positive example. So you are improving that culture by just automatically looking and acting more professional. All right, so for the brows, I was just using the ColourPop brow pencil. This was in the shade Warm Blonde because I like the color on there. And also it's significantly cheaper. I've been trying to go to cheaper brow products because I was using things like the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz and a few other ones that were just significantly more expensive than they needed to be. So I've been switching over to ColourPop and e.l.f. for my brow products because they are just way less expensive and they get the job done. So we're all about saving money here right now. All right, for my lashes, I'm gonna throw on the Benefit They're Real Magnet Lash product. This is definitely more of a natural looking, like it's not hugely thickening mascara, and so that's part of why I like to use this if I'm just wanting to go without really a whole lot of eyeshadow or anything on, because it doesn't look too crazy. I don't look like I'm trying to throw on like super big panda mascara, you know. But I definitely, if I'm doing a more colorful look, I would not go with this mascara because it is super neutral, natural looking, and I usually do prefer to have my lashes be a little bit floofier. But you can see just ever so slightly adds that little bit deeper lash color to it, lengthens them a little bit. And so I find that if you're wanting really nice natural looking lashes that are just a little bit more elongated and separated out, this is a really great mascara for that. All right, so I ended up doing a second coat on my right eye because my left eye went on a little thicker than I was ready for, so had to throw on a little bit more on the right eye. But we're gonna finish up with the lip real quick, and so for that I like using a clear gloss and then just a very light colored neutral lip, and so I like using the lip clays from Kaleidos, and this one is in the shade Pink Moon. So I'll do that one and then just a little bit of gloss on top, which gives it a nice kind of natural look. And the Kaleidos lip clays last a really nice long time, which is fantastic. But I don't like to just use them, even though I like the matte look. My lips tend to get a little too dry, and so I prefer having a gloss on top. All right, so this is the final look for a natural work day. If I was gonna go to graduation, this is the kind of face that I typically throw on. But I would love to know what kinds of products you guys use as you are getting ready for your day. The only other thing that I really have to worry about for work is my hair, because it is in fact long enough to where they did recently change the regulations for your hair as well for women, that you can have it in a single braid or in a single ponytail, which is really nice. But the only requirements are that it cannot go below where your armpit is at on your sleeve, as far as on your back. And so when you're wearing your uniform where we can see that the armpit kind of goes to, if your hair extends beyond that, you have to pull it up in a different way. And so I'll usually go with a French braid because that kind of shortens my hair up a little bit more to where it's not too long. Or I'll go with a ponytail. You can't have like the super high up ponytail, but you can have it like middle of the head type of deal. So I'll go with that. Or I'll just do the normal bun, but it is nice to have some different options so that your hair isn't receding anymore, because I have definitely, my hair has thinned out so much around my forehead because of having to have it yoinked back so tightly for over 10 years before they changed the regs. And so I am just very grateful that they decided to do that. So next step, we just gotta hope that they're gonna change the regulations for beards so that guys can also just kind of do whatever. But I really think that a lot of the changes that we're seeing are for the positive, and especially being in the position that I'm in, I get to see a lot of that positive change almost immediately, and so it's such an amazing job, and I absolutely love it. But if you guys have any questions for me, just drop them down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer them. But yeah, that's what I do. And the second tier, the non-commissioned officer academy, that was where I was at, so it's essentially the same thing as what I teach, just the next level up. And so you get a little more nitty-gritty, you have a few extra assignments, and that's kind of the only difference on there, is that you're looking at it from the next tier of leadership. Instead of just that frontline supervisor, you're now at the mid-tier management level, and then once you become an E7, you go up to that senior non-commissioned officer academy, where you kind of learn how to be flight leader type of thing, and so even higher levels. And so it's really nice that they provide like continuous leadership training, because you can definitely never get enough of that, because we are definitely all works in progress when it comes to that. So I really enjoy learning from everybody as they go through those courses. And so that is kind of it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it's just kind of a short little getting to know me type of thing, and this is what I do in the military. This is where I've been. Sorry that I took off for so long, but I should be back to normal for now. But I'm just so happy that you guys are here with me, that you enjoy hearing about the makeup and, you know, different things that I do. And so yeah, if you have any other questions for me, just throw them down in the comment section down below. But we have a whole lot of indie makeup coming up. If you did not check my recent haul video, definitely go check that out for a sneak peek of some of the things that we're going to be taking a look at. And if you made it to the end of the video and you have not yet subscribed, I would love it if you would join my family here. We talk a ton about indie makeup, do really colorful makeup usually. This is definitely very neutral for me. And yeah, that's the main thing we do here. Tons of swatches. And if that sounds like fun to you, I would love it if you would join my family here and give me a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you did not, as we always do. And other than that, you guys just go have a good one.